having that like loser style, no loser like someone that loses, by the way, loser with double O's, okay? Loser style. Uh, you're not a loser if you're learning languages for fun. It's actually very cool. You're very cool. Look at me in the face. You're very cool, and you should keep doing it. Okay, back to my point.
To be honest, it's a kind of thing that makes my job easier.
Welcome, everybody, to a new exciting episode of the Connected by Language podcast, the only shows that find the most dedicated language learners out there and tries to learn from their craft. I'm your host, Michele, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Michelle.
And maybe for the people that are joining in for the first time, I think it would be nice to give them a little bit of an introduction, who we are, where we're coming from, and what we're all about.
Okay, yeah. I'm Michelle from Germany. I speak German, English, French, and Spanish. And I work as a language education specialist at Tandem.
Ooh, that sounds nice. What is Tandem?
So, Tandem is a language exchange app where you can exchange languages all over the world with people online. And you can either have one on one conversations or have group conversations in our language parties.
Yeah, the potential is truly limitless. I've been using Tandem myself to brush up on my Japanese, and I'm ready to take on the exam of the JLPT. So I'm very excited to see how the friendships that I made on the app are going to look like. And the great thing about Tandem is that you can find truly anybody that you want, like any language. There's over, I think, like 300 languages that you can access. So you will definitely find people that are interested in the same languages as you. And maybe I could give a little bit of an introduction about myself. Hi, my name is Michele. I come from Italy. I speak Italian, French, English, and a little bit of Japanese. And I'm just very interested about learning about other languages and learning about other cultures. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm so glad that Tandem exists so I can actually go and explore new cultures like that. And I think today we're going to kind of give a little bit of a very specific language to learn today, you know? We've been going through all over the major Latin languages. You know, we talk about Italian. We talk about all of the variants of Spanish, right? There's like a bajillion of them. And we also have a lot of people saying some very interesting words about French. But there is one Latin languages that I think we haven't really like talked about, right? What's the big outlier? What do you think is the big outlier?
I don't know what the word means.
Outlier? Or like, okay, maybe not the word, but like who?
Okay.
There's one missing. There's one missing. Whenever you think of Latin languages, there's
Yeah.
one missing.
I knew the answer, but I wasn't sure if it was
Maybe I
right.
used the wrong word. My
No,
my
it's
vocabulary is
fine.
not
Just
the
didn't
best.
know it. So it's Portuguese.
Yes, it's Portuguese. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Brazilian version of Portuguese, which I think is one of the most interesting languages out there. And not only that, we're going to meet somebody that not only is very, very passionate about this language, but also a person that managed to find a way to turn this passion for Brazilian Portuguese into an online career. Yes, we're going to talk about a very, very interesting content creator that I think for people that are interested in learning Portuguese is going to be a fantastic new addition to your algorithm or your or your For You page. Welcome to the show, Brazilian Portuguese, also known as Guilherme.
Yes, it's me. Thanks for having me here. Very nice to join you guys for this podcast. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to learn more about anything that comes through your amazing story. I have a little bit of an insider look, but maybe for the people that are not as familiar with your content, maybe can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey and what you're all about?
Sure. So my name is Guilherme. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. Since I was a little, I've been very interested in history, politics, geography, and I was always sure that one day I was living a very international lifestyle. I'm a good example how mixed we are in Brazil, the mix of different races, and professionally, I always want to be like a diplomat, represent my country. And I turned this passion about communication, the language into my career, creating Brazilian Portuguese, where I share and teach Brazilian Portuguese language.
Yeah, and I think that's a very stacked amount of different career paths, and it's very interesting because it started from things like diplomats and politics, and you landed up in the world of the language community. So I kind of want to know more about that side. Like, what first sparked your interest in languages? while growing up in Brazil?
Yeah, to be honest, first actually it was very interesting in traveling different cultures and worlds. Uh, everything related to a very international lifestyle. But of course, I realized that I cannot travel and get to know the world if I don't know how to communicate. So was then I start getting more interesting about learning different languages, and I realized how language actually it's part of the culture.
So beforehand, you have told us that you did an au pair. So it would be interesting to know, like, how did your time as an au pair change how you viewed languages and also communication?
One thing that I realized once I start this crazy experience as an au pair in New York is that there's one thing that nobody teaches you. It's about body language. You can study languages and books and studying all the grammar. But if you're not in touch with people, if you don't put yourself in a situation or you go talk mostly like with native speakers from the language that you're learning, you're not going to get used to the flow and the way people speak. And my experience as an au pair was once I realized, I remember I got there, I was so confident. I was like, yeah, I can speak English, I can understand what they're saying. And the first couple of weeks was a disaster, was chaotic because I couldn't understand what they're saying. Then I realized actually that you can study grammar as much as you want, but the way people speak in any language, all the language, it's going to be different from the books.
Yeah. I remember my time where I was tasked by my entire school. I was the kid that knew the best English, and we went to Ireland. And everybody was like, "Oh, Michele, you can help us get tickets for the buses in Ireland and go to the center because we want to see the was it the Spire, I think." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I got this. I know the English very well. I pass all my exams." And then I talked to the bus drivers, and I have no idea what he's saying, and I felt terrible afterwards. And everybody of my friends was like, "Michele, what's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't understand this person. Please help." So let's just say that it's very like a grammar book does wonders for sure. And even like in my case, I was mimicking YouTubers, so I was even worse in this case. But like, you gotta have some field experience before you can actually test. Hey, I'm actually good at this language. So quite the quite the memory, the traumatic memory, I would say.
100%.
Yes. So, but for what I gather, at least from your story, you actually managed to, with the time of you starting to grasp English, you became yourself a tutor, a language tutor as well, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And one thing that is always very interesting whenever we interview tutors is that a lot of them say that teaching others helps them improve themselves too. And my question is like, do you feel like own language skills evolved through your time with tutoring and interacting with students?
100%. This happens like almost, I'm not gonna say every day, but at least every week. My students they ask something. They're like, "Oh, how do I say this in Portuguese?" And I'm like, "What is this? I don't even know what you're talking about." So I do have to translate some stuff. So 100%, talking to them, I get to know a lot of stuff, not only from English but from different languages. I kind of go learn different expressions or different words from different language. So yes, 100%. This improved my language skills like almost every day.
Yeah, and it's also extremely nice whenever you kind of find yourself like in a little bit of a conundrum. It's like, how do you say this word? And you're like, oh, I have no idea. But then like you kind of manage to squeeze a way to basically say, hey, I technically already knew this, and they did not realize that I've been looking on Google Translate how to say a word. So I don't know if that happens a lot as a teacher, that you just like kind of like you have to wait to kind of hide the fact that you're actually don't know the answer. Does that happen a lot, especially?
It does.
It does a lot? Oh my god.
And I
It
know that
does.
for you, yeah.
Because that would be like my biggest fear, to like not appear as I'm perfect about a language that I actually need to rely on Google. But hey, maybe after a while, like, would it be better if, your language teacher knew the best resources to translate something instead of just like asking ChatGPT to like tell you the word, even though it doesn't make sense? So
Mhm.
I think I should be a lot more open to looking at Google Translate whenever nobody knows how to say something in Italian.
Yeah, you shouldn't worry about it. I think it's like 50% being prepared and 50% improvising.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's
Being
a
a
great
teacher.
part about teaching. Yeah, about improvising. That's something that not everybody knows how to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to improvise. Everybody's like super strict about their schedule, but
Yeah,
like anything, there's gonna be some times where you have to improvise.
absolutely. And you have been tutoring and teaching online and in person. Do you see any advantages or like challenges when you do the online teaching and tutoring?
100%. I mean, I see a lot of advances actually doing online. I think learning and teaching languages online, it's the future and the present. I think everybody that's teaching languages nowadays, everybody's online. Everybody's online because the students that go take a class for 50 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, it depends where they live. If they live like in big cities, it takes another hour just to get in the class. So if you do online, you can do from whenever you want. I had experience doing classes inside a supermarket, in a library, in people's house, in a bar, in a cafe. So you have all this possibilities about places when you do online. So you have all of this freedom. And go ahead.
No, no, continue, please.
And like all these communities online helps a lot. It helps a lot because when people they're into those online communities learning different languages, more than learning a language is very sociable. So people they do make a lot of friends, they connect with each other. So I mean I'm not gonna say that I don't see it, but I'd say it's a little harder in the future. People thinking about learning languages like in person, not doing this online. Except if some people they travel to different country for like a more cultural experience. But if it's not the case, like doing online, that's the best, the easiest way.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier because, like, let's say, for example, myself, I wake up one day, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna learn Japanese. Back in the day, you would have to find a random teacher on a flyer in the middle of the street to be able to find somebody that could go to their house and like go all the way. And it's hard for everybody, I have to admit. But now, like you said, you can also do it from everywhere. I'm specifically interested in the supermarket part, mainly because I feel like, how do you do that? But then you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a fantastic exercise in vocabulary. You take something on a shelf, it's like, oh, how do you say like pear in Portuguese? And then you the milk cycle. So
But it was those like big supermarkets where they had like a booth area, like with some tables where you can have a meeting. I had experience in teaching those places.
I thought you were going like with your cart, like doing groceries, and be like, oh
Yeah.
no, wait, that's a pear. We call it pear over here. I don't know how you call it. Wait,
But I had students. I had students like they were about to have a class with me, and then they were like late going back home. They're like inside the bus, on their car, like in the supermarket, at the gym. They're like, "Yeah, I'm going back home," and talking to me by their phones.
Oh my God, that sounds like a chaotic. I don't know. I think those memorable times could also help with some remembering the languages, because you remember also the funny story behind it. So I wouldn't completely disregard doing lessons in the middle of nowhere, or like in the middle of other activities. Of course, not always, because you lose that consistency. Sometimes you have to concentrate. You can't just like change every second and be like, oh, I need to do this, and oh wait, I'm gonna listen to you later. I'm gonna go that thing. It kind of defeats the purpose of learning languages, does it?
It's quite interesting because one part of students and learners also learn well haptically. So they need to like touch things and move around. And I thought, well, if it's online, that's probably the part that's missing. But
Mm.
now you gave me this idea of going to the place and then teaching about supermarket in the supermarket, and they get the haptics again. So maybe that's the future.
So you will tell them to go to a
Yeah,
supermarket.
exactly.
Oh, that's smart actually. Because I thought you were going to the supermarket, and I was like,
Oh,
that's
but
gonna be awful. But for them,
yeah. Maybe that's like the combination we need.
yeah.
Even though it's online, they can still get the haptics if it's a haptical learner.
If I were a teacher, I would just scribble that down as like an idea for a lesson for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also mentioned something interesting I wanted to focus on. You talk about community, you talk about online spaces, you talk about community. And I would love to know from you, as your experience of doing this, like tutoring in so many different places, so many different people, like, have there been specific online spaces or apps that you would recommend people to use to strengthen their language skills?
Mm, say it again. I forgot the question.
Okay, don't worry. It's like you said that you talk about a very important part is the community aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to know if there's some specific spaces or apps that you think people would benefit a lot to strengthen their language skills.
I would say like it depends. Everyone has their own vibe, so it's good. But I would say, I mean, Tandem is a good one. I have students that start learning languages. They start learning Portuguese with Tandem. They start doing like one-on-one classes. It's a good one. I would say I have so many students. It's like Portuguese is not a very commercial language, but there's a very specific group that people into the dating culture, doing dating apps, but it helps a lot. It helps a lot, going, meeting people, hanging out, making friends. It's a kind of community. It's a community online. And also like social medias, all of them. So I think social media, it's a pretty good space for all kind of business. Of course, you can spend your time watching a lot of non very just for entertainment videos, but you can still like be in touch every single day, getting some content and like improve your language. And this helps a lot actually. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the fantastic thing about the internet. You get so many different options. Any sort of
Correct.
site, there's somebody that has built an entire community just for you, no matter how niche it can be. And things can be very niche if you work hard enough. I cannot say a lot of the examples, but let's just say a lot of language communities can be quite eccentric. Let's just call them that, eccentric. So,
And how have actually all those global interactions you had changed the way or formed the way you teach Portuguese? Because you have probably students from all over the world. So that would be interesting to me.
Yes. So this is a good question actually, because I always like to connect the language and the culture from Brazil, because I would say from the students that I have and also traveling, meeting people, I would say Brazil is still like a kind of a mystery, like a giant country, huge country where people they kind of like don't understand how things work since the country's so big. And people they also get a lot of there's a stereotype coming from the city of Rio. So I would say uh, talking to people from different places, because I got students from 46 different countries.
oh my God.
The from 46 different countries, and then like I said, I always like to connect with culture, and because when you do learn the language and understand the way you communicate, and also like explaining the country, like I said before, since Portuguese is not a very commercial language, the quantity of students that I have that wants to learn the language for business or for work, I would say is less than 20%. So most of them I like to teach in a very, let's say, let's say funny, not funny, but like not a fun way. It's not a very strict class. So one thing that I do actually is connect a lot language, culture, and explaining the country and how the way we interact, the vocabulary, how important it is to understand our lifestyle and then get to know and learn more the language.
Yeah. A lot of people in my own circle actually have a very interesting point because everybody was very focused on, oh, I need to learn French as fast as possible so I can find job in Paris and stay there. So I never got to experience that much the I want to do it for fun until I started Japanese and somebody like said to me, hey, we want to learn Japanese with me. And that having that like loser style, no loser like someone that loses, by the way, loser with double O's, okay? Loser style. Uh, you're not a loser if you're learning languages for fun. It's actually very cool. You're very cool. Look at me in the face. You're very cool, and you should keep doing it. Okay, back to my point. So it's such a refreshing rate because I was going to lessons being like super nervous. It's like, oh, do I remember things from my previous lesson? And now I can go to Japanese. It's like, oh, I wonder what crazy fun fact my teacher is gonna tell me about the time that a surgeon like failed a bunch of surgeries, and she's gonna tell me in Japanese how to do it. So it becomes exciting. It doesn't become work anymore. So uh, it's a very freeing experience that I think a lot more people should be interested in. And so
Can I say something about this? Actually, this is, to be honest, it's a kind of thing that makes my job easier because, like I said, I always talk about my sister. I've been trying to learn her to teach to help her with English, but she has a very perspective about, oh, I need to improve my English for LinkedIn, for work. But like I says Portuguese. Not a lot of people do learn Portuguese for the same goal, so it makes my job easier because I can make the class more relaxed, more fun. So to be really honest, that's a privilege, and I love that.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's a win-win situation in this case, and I think that's what we should
Yes.
strive for.
And Portuguese is also one of the most expressive languages. So, how would you describe what is unique and beautiful to teach it?
I would say talking specific about Brazilian Portuguese, the way we pronounce every single letter, specific the vowels, that what makes the language like beautiful to hear when people are speaking, and also how, like I said before, that I like to connect a lot the language with the culture. How we are very specific and would like to describe things in a very specific way, so it needs a lot of vocabulary. It needs a lot of vocabulary, like to speak in the same way. So that's what makes the language beautiful to speak, to teach, and to hear. And also, like Latin America, we are loud, and I know that. So people that are loud, they speak a lot, they describe things very specific, and you pronounce every single letter. It sounds, I mean, me as a native speaker, of course, I don't get the same way, but that's how everybody said. It sounds like a rhythm, like a music, and Brazilians speak Portuguese.
It's very interesting that you said that you need to learn a lot of vocabulary because in my mind, I thought that Portuguese was it's a language that you don't need a lot of actual vocabulary to teach it. It's like a very high context language. You kind of can figure out with your body language. But do you actually need to learn very specific words in order to have a normal conversation of Portuguese?
Not a lot of specific words exactly, but I would say in our conversations we like to describe things. I don't know if it's exactly the same thing actually. When we talk about something, we like to say how it happens, when it happens, the way it happens, with specific
Okay.
adjectives.
Okay.
You know,
Very
that's a
metaphorical.
that's dramatic. I would say it's something very dramatic about Latin America.
Dramatic. That's a very interesting way to put it. But
Drama, Latino drama.
love drama here. We love drama. And speaking about drama or dramatic parts about languages, one thing that is interesting is the vowels and pronunciation, which is like very interesting, like very hard, or at least very unique. So, what are some common pronunciation or maybe grammar challenges that trip up learners that just come in and want to learn Portuguese for the first time?
The tricky was, oh, I love this. Actually, the classic is like I would say, oh, very nasal. Oh, bone, Afghanistan. And
Okay.
people, if you want to say bread, bone, those countries in like mostly Middle East, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, for us, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, this oh, it's very nasal. And like coming from a perspective of English speakers, they say now, now, which sounds spongy for us. It sounds for us sounds really
No.
fun. Exactly. Had to be very nasal and make the vowel longer. Also, one thing, and my name is a very good example. Guilherme, the LH, you have to kind of wet your tongue. And people, they kind of like split it and say Guilherme. I was like, put the LA together. Guilherme. Okay,
Got it.
Guilherme. And there's also with the R, which is a good one. I always like to mention the C of Rio. It's not Rio, it's Rio de Janeiro. Rio. So it sounds like H actually, the way you pronounce it.
It's a
Yeah.
Rio de Janeiro.
Rio de Janeiro, Rio de Janeiro. Is the same like hospital in English? We say Rio de Janeiro.
It's
Okay.
meant to combine the French R and an H together in like a Frankenstein
Exactly.
monster.
We have both actually. We have something like there's a French R, like for Rio, and like the Spanish one, like for expensive, caro. Then you have to roll the tongue. Not strong as in Spanish, but you have both. So that's what makes tricky. The R, like I said, the LH, my name is a good example, and the O, very nasal. Those are points that is always hard for people to pronounce when they go learn Portuguese.
That sounds like a very because one thing that is very funny is that when I work with a lot of people that don't know a lot of like Italian, they always think, oh, Portuguese and Italian are very similar. No, no, they're not. And I had people thinking that they are the same. Like, yeah, there's the deep roots, sure, but keep the comparison to Spanish, okay? Spanish and Italian, yeah, they're similar, okay. With Portuguese, there's similarities. Don't get me wrong, but it's not super simple.
I know, that is true.
To me,
That is true.
to me, they sound very different. I don't know if in the grand scheme of things, but to me, they sound very different. So I'm not. Don't come for me, man. I'm just the messenger. Like,
But one thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead first.
The thing about like it sounds not familiar for you is like we Brazilians specifically, we can understand a lot of Spanish and Italian without never studying. But you guys, Italian, Spanish speakers, they don't understand us.
oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I remember I accidentally had the Portuguese dub of like a cartoon that I wanted to watch. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I couldn't understand it. I'm sorry. But I thought like, oh, like I know Italian. It should be nice. No, no, very bad idea.
It's quite interesting because I remember listening to forró music before, which is also from Brazil. And at first I thought it was French. Like I thought they sing it in French because they have these nasal sounds too. And the whole like melody and vibes were more French like. So maybe we got Italian and Spanish here and then Portuguese and French, which are
What
a
a
bit
what a
more.
what a combination. That's because then you realize, but wait, there's some differences. But then you realize, wait a minute, French also like completely covers all of their vowels. So I was like, I don't know. So
But then vocabulary is similar to Spanish again. So yeah.
so it's kind of like like a crossbreed, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say Portuguese, like the grammar is similar to Spanish, but the accent, the pronunciation is similar to Italian.
Yeah. Okay, so you get like both of worlds, and neither
I believe
you
so.
understand.
I'll give you like two random examples, like the word for in Italian, you guys say like polícia, democracia, right?
Democrazia, sì.
Same as you do in Portuguese. In Spanish, say la democracia, la policía.
La policia. La democrazia.
Okay, we pronounce the same way, polícia, democracia.
Ah. I never thought about it that way, honestly. So yeah, I definitely. And now I can see the comparisons. But so one thing that people, when they come into Portuguese for the first time, one of the first things that always jumps into their mind is the difference between the European version of Portuguese and the Latin America version of Portuguese. So, like, what are the typical differences between Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal that are important to consider when first learning to using the actual language?
First, I always like to say people that is learning Brazilian Portuguese, if they go to Portugal or talk to someone from Portugal and they don't understand everything, don't feel bad because even us, we had some hard time to understand actually, to be really honest. And there's, I'd say two things just to compare. First is about like the present continuous, the way if you compare it to English, for example, in Brazil, we're doing the same way. For example, now we are talking. So in Brazil, we say nós estamos conversando, talking. In Portugal, they say nós estamos a conversar, which means we are about to talk. So it kind of feels they're talking about the future, right? They don't say this continuous the way we do in English as well. They say estou a conversar, estou a fazer, which means I'm about to talk, I'm about to do, right? They speak like this. And another thing, of course, the classic one is the pronunciation. So the thing is in Brazil, we pronounce all the vowels as strong as possible, and in Portugal is as faster as possible, and maybe don't even pronounce it. Okay. For example, I'm going to give you another example from the word cholesterol. Okay. In Brazil, we say colesterol, colesterol. In Portugal, they say cholesterol, cholesterol.
Just running
So
away.
exactly, it's like in a rush. So basically, especially with the vowels, like pronounce as fast as possible, or maybe don't even pronounce it.
I never thought that the Latin American version of the language was going to be the one that is the most easy to understand that the European version, because you always think like, oh, like Spanish from Spain is like the textbook one. You learn it, it's the textbook. And then when you go to Latin America, it's like all expressive and like you have to live there to kind of understand it. This to me now, it sounds like the opposite, which is crazy to think about.
Like
It
Brazilian
does.
Portuguese being the beginner
The
friendly.
beginner friendly one, right? While the Portuguese is like the hard level one. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like we pronounce every single letter. We pronounce everything. In Portugal, they don't. They speak as fast as possible, especially with the vowels. So that's what I'm saying. If you're learning Brazilian Portuguese, don't feel bad if you don't understand European Portuguese, because even for us, I was in Portugal like in May and June. Sometimes I had to do. I mean, love Portugal, please, but like I had to do some lips reading to understand 100% what they're saying. Actually,
Oh my gosh.
it's true. It's
It's
true.
that bad, huh? Oh God.
Do people actually often need to be told about those differences, or do you come across them naturally in class, or isn't it a big topic at all?
Um, Mm, I would say depends. Generally, it's not a topic actually, to be honest, because the quantity, like almost 90% of Portuguese speakers in the world are Brazilians nowadays. So it's not like a main topic. Uh, but I had some students, I got some students before they've been learning Brazilian Portuguese, and once they got in they go to Portugal, they was like, wow, sounds like a completely different language. So yes, some people they have to be true before because they don't know, and also because the quantity uh, of like media, not only social media but of TV, music, everything coming from Brazil, it's a way bigger. It's massive compared what comes from Portugal. So people they learn Brazilian, they learn Portuguese. In most of the time, 90% of the time, they go learn Brazilian Portuguese. So except for the ones that go travel, go visit Portugals, but most of them they don't even know. They never been touched with European Portuguese.
I mean, can you tell? Like again, like you said, there's so much Brazilian content out there. The country is so much
Yeah,
larger than.
like the population in Portugal, the whole country is smaller than the city of São Paulo. In São Paulo,
Oh God.
so yeah, there's like 11 million people in Portugal, and in São Paulo there's like over 18 million. So
Wow.
the quantity, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Now I can definitely see the disparity,
yeah.
and that's very interesting because now you're doing like some little fun facts about Brazil. But one thing that you mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the episode that I would love to learn more about is some tools. Like, what are some impactful tools or techniques that help you teaching better?
I don't know if it's exactly like tools, but one thing that helps me a lot, it's because I've been learning actually how big is the cultural impact of Brazil as like I don't know if it's like as a leader or like the biggest Portuguese speaker country. So this is a tool that I use a lot actually, and also like music, the news, and the important like economic, political, cultural importance for Brazil. But I would say music would be the strongest one, except of course my classes, my files, all the document that I had. The music and the news helps a lot.
Yeah, I heard that music is a very popular method of teaching languages. You know, you
It
hear
is.
all the repetition, you get to learn about some cultural elements as well, you know, when there's like a reference to something that happens and it's also usually since the singer is a lot more like he has to re-record it, it's also pretty a lot clearer. I don't think there's a lot of slurriness or accents going on when singing. So I think it's a very popular method and a lot of people that are using it for way more than Portuguese also for Japanese or for French,
Yes.
German,
It's
everywhere.
especially like in the last couple of years, I would say, I think like the Brazilian pop music is getting bigger. There's like a whole industry growing. So people are getting more interested about, I would say especially in the last 5 years. So yeah, and this has attracted a lot of attention, has attracted a lot of attention, especially from the young generation.
Oh, Uh, how do you do this? How do you use the music and the culture so that the language sticks better?
Good.
Yeah, like I said, this is my method. I love connecting language with the culture because I think if you learn it, if you understand, if you get the lifestyle of the people, you're gonna get uh to to learn the important vocabulary. You know what's important, how to talk to people, how to interact with them. So I would say it's impossible do not connect culture and language because language is always changing. Right? It's always changing. People are creating new slangs. New things are always uh, uh, new things are always what's the verb? You know, always or always coming. There's new things all the time. And there's a sentence that I like to say, learning language and not being interesting about the culture is like going to the beach and hiding from the sun. Right.
That's very
Like
good
it's
said.
impossible. Like how do you learn a language you don't understand what's going on in the country, you don't understand at least a little bit of the geography and the culture and the society. Like it doesn't work. So I always like to mention an example. There's a student of mine. He was in the south of Brazil, which is it's a different lifestyle. And then he learned a lot of vocabulary. And then a year later, he went to the northeast, the state of Bahia. And the way he was speaking to people, everybody was like, where did you learn Portuguese? And the person, in the South Brazil. And the people was like, kind of, okay. They were kind of like acting like, oh, that's kind of sounds weird for me. And it was like, wow, that's insane because it's in the same country, right? So that's why it's so important. If you go to a place, learn the culture, understand people, how is the society, music, the race, how things works, because it's impossible to not connect both, in my opinion.
It takes me back to the time where people from certain regions of Italy do not understand people from the top or the bottom part of Italy. So I take me back. The cultures can be very different, even like a small amount of kilometers. And imagine with Brazil being so massive, like the differences are going to be absolutely gigantic, I would assume. But like one thing that I think it could be a little bit hard, especially when Brazil is such a big country with such a like diverse set of culture, is people not understanding a little bit of like things like humor or idioms. So how do you handle explaining Brazilian humor, idioms, or slang to students that are from completely different parts of the world or completely different cultures?
First, it's important to get to know if the person is like Eastern or Western. This is extremely important because I can already get the point of view and the way they see Brazil. Second, one very important thing I like to tell people, I would say politically, Brazilians, we are Latinos, but culturally, not really. We are very isolated. Culturally, we have like our own vibe, our own language. Not because like we don't like it, our neighbors. That's not the point. It's because if you compare the proportion, like how big Brazil in the quantity, the population, it's a way bigger than all of our neighbors. So the countries in Latin America, they do connect to each other. They share the same language. They share a very similar culture. But we just stay in our own vibe. We just stay in our own world. So I always like to tell people, big countries like the States or Russia, or China, Brazil, it's not a country. It's like a whole universe. It's like a Brazilian universe because we talk about the other states and the other regions as kind of like subcultures, the way Latin America talk about like different countries, like the Spanish speakers. So, so yeah, I would say understand this point of view that we are very unique and very isolated culturally. So if you do want to understand, if you want to learn the language, of course, you have to understand this.
Yeah, and that's very interesting to point out because like so many countries can tell themselves, oh, we're like very different if you go from one place to another. But again, I think most people don't understand the scale of Brazil. I think it's one of the things that every time, at least in the European, when I talk to people about Brazil on my own place, they treat it just like, oh, it's another Latin country. A lot of us American
Yes.
country. It's like technically yes, but like, bro, have you seen the rest of Latin America? This guy's huge. Like, and
Even
you
if
think,
sorry even if you go ask like people on the street Brazilians, like you consider yourself Latino, I'm pretty sure a lot of them they'll say no, I just consider like Brazilian.
I see. And
But like I said, not like in a mean way, not because we don't like them. It's just because we don't feel a lot of connection with our neighbors.
yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to be bad. It's just
Yeah.
simply people like have a very interesting way of how their community has been built, and everybody has their own methods. I wouldn't assume that every European be like, oh, I'm European. It's like, no, I'm Finnish, or I am British, or I am Spanish.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think Europe can really relate to that sort of isolation. But you one thing that also you said that like way back we said like, oh, like the city of São Paulo has the entire population of Portugal. But one thing that I always like to ask guests that are very experts in their country is interesting, fun city fun facts. So are there any fun or surprising facts about Portuguese that always grab your students' attention outside of the whole city thing? So we already talked about that one.
One thing is a very fun fact, actually, which is always funny when I go explain this kind of stuff on my classes. It's about the quantity of double meaning words and expressions. I would say we are known for having a kind of like dirty mind. So there's a lot of stuff that has like a lot of double meaning. There's a lot of stuff that has a kind of like a double meaning. So it puts people like in a awkward, like embarrassed situation sometimes. So I like to explain my students like I don't want to put you guys in embarrassed situations, make you guys awkward during conversation. So there's a lot of stuff, and there are many like expressions, awards, or even like in music. I've got people they're like, so it's oh, I love this song. It's song. I was like, do you know what that means? do you know? Do you know the meaning of this song? Especially nowadays with pop music. But I would say it's a fun fact that always get people's attention.
Yeah, I would fear going into a conversation saying like a normal phrase and be misinterpreted to be like, oh, by the way, you also said like 700 different dirty things. And I'm like, oh, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean? I wonder how creative things can go because like
Uh,
if there are so many, it's like, how do you reach the conclusion? Like, I don't want to make examples, but is
that's a good point, actually. I would say, like I said before, especially nowadays with this pop music industry growing, there's always new stuff uh, growing. I was like, sometimes I get some music like I don't even know what that means. The sounds it doesn't sound very nice. It's like double meaning, but I don't even know actually. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of them.
And right now we all focus about your time in the classroom. You know, you get to talk, you get to do your lessons. But what methods have you seen being the most effective for your students for improving their Portuguese skills outside of the classroom?
I mean, the answer is pretty easy. It's pretty simple actually, but I would say, coming from my students' experience, mostly I would say with music, TV shows, of course, some online communities, and like I said before, a lot of like dating apps that helps a lot as well.
I guess everybody needs their vices.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay. So this is the one side of you. The one side of your coin is the teacher side, helping people learn about the Brazilian culture and Brazilian language in one-on-one classes or book classes. But there's another side of you, another more, I'd say, like online and global reaching side. Your, uh, let's just say, social media presence. Wouldn't you say?
Yes. Brazilian Portuguese. That's my that's my social media. That's my website as well. Can you just talk about it?
Yeah, I was about
Yeah.
to ask, what inspired you to
Please go ahead.
start the Brazilian Portugui, and how did it evolve into a, into a full-fledged platform?
So the name came, I will never forget this. I was doing a class with my student Jennifer. Jenny, I'm here talking about you. She lives in Los Angeles, California. She works in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. I remember I was just talking about, I was just talking to her that I'd like to create my brand, doing content for people that is learning Portuguese. And she was like, why don't you play with your name instead of like Portuguese? You could just give, have a perfect name for this. And that's why that was like, wow, that's a fantastic idea. And that's why I play with my name Guilherme instead of Portuguese. I create Brazilian Portuguese. So I would say my students, they were still my biggest inspirations to create this because um when I talk to them, they have like some specific questions if they do want to learn language for a very specific reason. I was like, wow, I would like to make videos to answer your questions. So, same way that you're asking me this, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people uh, that has the same question or want to know about the same thing. They would like to watch my videos. And at first, this was like about 3, 4 years ago. Most of the videos that I saw of people teaching languages is very related to some funny videos with memes. I was like, I can do this, but I want to focus more like in actually teaching the language, the culture, teaching some expressions. Um, so it was when it was when I decided to create my brand and create method. And also like showing Brazil culturally, getting out of the stereotype of the city of Rio. Like people, when they think about Brazil, they always think about Rio. I'm from São Paulo. I love going to Rio, of course, but Brazil is a way bigger. There's a way much more to show and to learn. So, so yeah, that was my idea when I started.
And
And
and how did this whole inspiration and like answering your students' questions actually develop into a full-fledged platform?
The thing with the platform, to be really honest, uh, it was it was a matter of like trying to make more money, to be honest, because I had my social media. I was doing some content, some studio was getting to me, but it was still available in another platform where they get like a big percent of the how much my students pay me. That was like, I need to create my own platform. I need to create my own website. So at the time that it was still available in another platform, I was creating my own method, my classes, all the files that I have. And at the moment I felt like, okay, now it's the moment. I have to invest on it, create my own website. So yeah, it was just by the time, as soon as I feel more comfortable and I got like so many students, I was like, wow, my schedule is full, my agenda is full. I'm already doing like 6, 7 classes a day. So I think
God.
it's time.
Yeah, that's all.
And I'm still doing. I'm here in Bangkok, Thailand. Some days I still do like 7 plus 7 classes a day sometimes.
how do you guys survive this? What I'm very sure about survive this many lessons. I think like after two of them, I would be like,
But maybe not with the same student.
of course, of course. I hope it's not with the
Yeah,
same student.
yeah.
I hope they're at
No,
least.
it's also like I don't do 7 hours a day. Like some days I just do 4 or 3, and some days I can do 7. Hey, it depends.
And one of the biggest challenging when you're creating sort of platform, creating your style and your social media account is finding your own style and voice. So, like, how did you find that teaching style and voice? Was it like already prepared from the start? Like, you already knew how your content was going to be structured, how your platform was going to look, or did you had to experiment a lot to find what
Mm,
worked best?
Not at all. You have to try a lot of things, see what works, what doesn't work. I remember at first I was doing some very simple videos like, oh, conjugating that verb, and like the present, past, and it's kind of video I don't do anymore because it doesn't work. It's kind of boring. I see my students don't like, and people, my audience don't like this kind of videos. So you have to try different things. You have to expose yourself. Sometimes you can go creating. I was like, wow, this video has a lot of views. Sometimes you can many hours or even like a couple of days producing specific videos and nobody watch it. Don't get any feedback from it. So you do have to try different styles, different videos to see which one works. So yeah, not at all. When I started, I had like some inspirations, I had some ideas, Some worked and some was kicked. It was easy fail.
And what was the moment that you realized that social media could be a serious place for education?
So, like I said before, I think social media it's good for all kind of business. If someone is teaching language, if they're not on social media, I would like to know where are they, so how they are attracting their students. I think social media is a fantastic place to get people's attention, to people get to you. Yesterday, by the way, I I had a student from Milan, from Italy. She found me on Instagram. She found me. So she got I had first class with her yesterday. So of course, at first, when you start doing a social media, you just have like a couple of followers. They're mostly your friends and family. So people they don't like trust you a lot. It's like, oh, this guy's just starting. But like everything in life, you have to start it. At one point, you're gonna have to start it. So nobody's gonna know who you are, but it's fine. I think social media is an incredible place for all kind of business. If you just focus on it, just put your own personality. If you do with consistency, it works.
And that part about being yourself, that's a very contentious part in the world of like content creators and different personality. I would say influencers because that's more like the thing that I have used to. And every time that you talk to somebody about creating your own social media content, they always say, "Oh, you have to be authentic," and it's yeah, okay, you could do that. You could be yourself, but it's also very hard to balance. It's not easy. Like just being yourself, it's hard. So my question, as someone that has kind of built a following, a pretty impressive one as well, like how do you balance creativity, consistency, and authenticity when sharing your language content online? Because at least when I used to work with influencers back in my day, that is not a very easy question to ask. There takes a lot of work, but I wanted to know your perspective.
Well, to be honest, like creative, it's something that I have a lot. And sometimes I do have to turn it off my brain because I go to sleep and I still thinking about videos that I can do. It's like, no, there's not a time to think about work. So this thing is like sometimes like in random moments, even I'm like doing this happens a lot by the way. I'm doing a class and my students ask me some stuff. I was like, wow, I could make a video about this. It can be a very simple question or something pretty complex. Like, wow, I never thought about it. That can make a video, just write it down something. And the thing with consistency, I try to post at least like 2 or 3 times a week. But the thing is like to conciliate my classes, the consistency on social media, and life, personal life, the things that I have to do because like I said, social media is a wonderful place for all kind of business. But the problem is that if you don't know how to balance. He became like a slave of social media. So I would say that's the biggest challenge that I'm learning. It's about the consistency and how to balance this with classes and what I have to do for my personal life.
I could imagine like your editing times. Like I would be scared to make this, but like to have all of this time to do lessons, and then like, oh God, I have now to edit videos. Oh no, like I struggle when I have to edit this podcast, and so it's like I'm like, how do you do it? I wish like some people like myself who are doing sort of stuff. So it's very impressive. But now that people have received like no, sorry. Accidentally skipped I just go back to it. Sorry. So what's something that you learn about your content style and branding by teaching Portuguese specifically to global online audience?
I would say that you can try. One thing very important that I learned: you can try your best. You can do you can do everything that is possible, but you're not gonna please everybody. Not everybody's gonna like you. Not everyone's gonna like your videos. So you have to understand and assume that you expose yourself. So when you put yourself like in a social media speaking from the camera, not everybody's gonna like you. So it's important to understand this. You're not gonna get all kind of students. You have to choose your audience. You have to choose who are you talking to. So I'm very honest with my students, especially with the very beginners one. I was like, I didn't study grammar at the university. Like I can teach you because I am native Portuguese speaker. but I am more focused on the middle and advanced one because I do like to talk about more complex topics, culture, what is going on in the country, politics, blah blah blah. Um, and also is talking specific about the language that I speak is that you have to be respectful. Consider that sometimes I just say, "Oh, but in Portuguese, we say this, and that." But there are other countries that speak Portuguese, and they maybe they do not agree what I'm saying. There are like 8 different countries where they speak Portuguese, Portugal, and the other countries in Africa, and you have to be respectful. Like, of course, when I scout my videos, I always say like in Portuguese, we say like this, but I have to consider that there are other countries that speak Portuguese. Maybe they speak in a different way. Maybe they don't agree with what I'm saying. Um, so yeah.
Very interesting. Because so people like, so let me get this straight. Like people usually correct you in the. You're talking about the comments, or you're talking about the people that come to your as a lesson? Like that's the part that I kind of didn't catch it.
Both, but not exactly about correcting me. It's about, for example, um, I have a student. He was very like he has a big group of Brazilian friends, and then he went to Portugal, and then he started like talking to a Portuguese girl. And he was like, "Oh, but this that you've been teaching me doesn't make sense in Portugal." I was like, "I know, but I'm teaching you Brazilian Portuguese." So, but I have to be respectful in a way like it's still the same language. It's just with a different accent, with a different perspective from a different country. I cannot say the Portuguese that I speak is the right one. It's just maybe the most popular because I come from the biggest Portuguese speaker country, but it's not the right one. So I have to be respectful, like in this way, that we are the biggest Portuguese population like speaker, but we're not the only one.
And if you have people here listening to our podcast right now who are so interested in what you are doing that they would like to start it themselves too, like start creating content and teaching languages on social media, what advice would you give them?
First, I would say you have to have some sort of like self confidence. Just trust yourself. You're gonna be in front of the camera. You're gonna expose yourself. So self confidence. And second, always think about when you're doing something like, would I like to watch this video that I'm doing? Sometimes people they do some content trying to please a lot of people, but like, would you like to watch your own video? Is your own content like nice? Is interesting? Is it good to learn? Is it funny? Would you like to watch your own stuff? That's a kind of question we have to ask all the time. And there's always, like I said before, you cannot please everybody. There's always someone that is not going to like you in your videos. So that's why you have to keep doing. If someone say, "Oh, I don't like a video, I don't think it's a good one," but if you do trust in your job, if you do think it's a good one, if you think someone is going to like to watch your videos, just keep doing. And also a very important topic is you need to know about your own not only about Portuguese, but you need to know about your own country before going to teach your language. I got so many students, they came to me and they're like, "Oh, I got a very nice teacher. The person's very good in explaining grammar." But then I asked some basic stuff about culture or the geography or what's happening in the country. They don't know what to answer. So I would say, like I said before, I it for me it's impossible to not connect the language and the culture. So get to know about your country, okay? The geography, the history, what's happening with inside the country. So get to know because people are going to be curious about it.
One thing that I want to add that I think is going to be a very interesting piece of advice for people that are starting their channel, because a lot of people that I know and they start their own YouTube channel or like their content creator channel, they always are scared of the part, oh, would I like to enjoy my own content? Because sometimes they find it awkward. I sometimes, when I do edit my own clips, I'm like, oh God, this guy's talking again. Asia. So one thing that a lot of people that I learned from people that I've been speaking to is I think it's a very interesting. It's a little bit of far away from language learning. It's more about YouTube channel. Is to create yourself as a character. Like a lot of people have been starting to kind of mitigate the whole like, oh, I need to be myself into like, oh, I'm gonna create a character that way. when I'm looking back at the videos, I'm like, that's not me that I'm talking about. This is my own original character that I'm acting out. And that makes like looking at yourself and creating consistent content much more accessible. Now, again, this is not very connected to the language learning part. It's more about for people that are trying to make content creation as a full-time job. But I found that little piece of advice, and I think it's a very good advice for anybody. Like, Flanderize yourself. If you don't know what Flanderizing means, it's just like taking your some nice little element that makes your personality and exaggerating it, of course, to a certain degree. But the idea is that you can take some elements about, let's say, you're a Portuguese content creators and you love about learning Brazil, you can kind of be a little bit exaggerated about your love for Portugal, for Brazil, Portugal for Brazil.
Wrong continent.
Wrong continent. Sorry, it's about loving
It's okay, it's
Brazil
okay.
and being very loudly and very like passionate about loving Brazil. This seems like a no-brainer for you, but for a lot of people, this is not as easy. Okay, so you can create your characters like, oh, I'm my original character that is obsessed with Brazil. And boom, now you have an entire different persona that you can hide yourself. And when you're watching back your content, you'll be like, that's a pretty cool character that I made. So this is my piece of advice for content creation to be a little bit more confident in front of the screen. So I don't know how this is a little bit of a tangent. I'm sorry, but
No, it's fine.
No, but
It fits.
I agree. I agree 100%.
But now we have covered the part of the content creation. Let's a little bit scale back a little bit. Let's take this wonderful journey that you created and kind of go a little bit more broad, a little bit. Let's get philosophical right away. Okay. So, like, what's the biggest, in your opinion, what's the biggest lesson that teaching Portuguese has taught you about how people learn languages in the first place?
I would say there is no a general method that works for everybody. So it doesn't matter which language that you're learning. You have to try different methods, try different ones, and see which one works for you. There's no miracle one's gonna work for everybody. That's everybody can learn with the same one. No. And second, thing that I always like to mention, I think language is power. So if you speak a different language, you can communicate, you can travel, you can influence people. This is powerful. So language is it's power, and learning as much language you can speak and communicate, it gives you a lot of power.
Yeah. And I think that's a very powerful message, especially because everybody, when joining into a language that they don't understand it too pretentious, sometimes they're like, oh, I want to learn language. Yes, why not? But the real life long term benefits are very, very palpable. But now,
Yes.
into your soul, Mr. Guilherme, what does teaching Portuguese said talk about yourself?
Well, the most important thing that's still learning about it, it's to be more patient. To be more patient, speak slowly, and respect people's time. You know, everyone has their own time, everybody has their own speed. I do speak very fast. I am a very fast person. So I would say the biggest lesson that I'm still learning every single day is respecting people's time. I got a couple of students, they said before, can you just go slower or go too fast? So like, yes, you can do it, of course. No worries. And this is something that I've been, you know, it's reflect about my own life. How sometimes just taking it to something no understanding regard.
Yeah, I feel like any teacher will probably have gone through this phase of their careers as well. Like, I don't know if you're like when you're doing your own teachings, this
Yeah.
happens.
Actually, I just thought about that sometimes it's the other way around too. If I have somebody who says to me, well, I want to learn German on B1 level, and then turns out they're quite good already. They might not have like dared to ask for more, but they're quite good. So at some point they ask me, can we go faster, please?
Uh,
So
it
then,
happens as well. Yeah, that can happen. But in my case, it's always the one asking to go slower.
Yeah,
Mostly.
I think also depends on the language that you're speaking because, like in your case, Portuguese is a more of a fun language that people learn like just to learn about languages, not necessarily out of like work reason. I would feel like German about German that is a little bit different, where people learn it at school a lot more often, and people usually do it because they want to find a job in Germany, or in Germany or somewhere around. So I feel like there's also that difference where people already have a basis to continue and pursue it.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's also because they're kind of scared of German because we have so much grammar and so, like, already when you want to talk and you don't know the right article, you're kind of already it keeps you from talking at all. And there are so many words with articles in a sentence. So I understand that sometimes this can be a bit like scary or seem like a lot. And that at some point they gain their self confidence and then they feel like, okay, we could go faster because actually I has already learned that.
Yeah. And one other little thing, we're not going to go too much into that because I don't think we have time. Otherwise, it would be an entire new episode about it. But you have been traveling a lot as well. Like, for example, you're calling us all the way from Thailand, which is a very, very interesting place to have a podcast conversation with. But has living and traveling abroad changed your relationship with your own native language?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I said before, I notice how you're very specific. You like to describe things with a lot of details. And also, talking about the other Latin language, especially with Italian and Spanish, it makes me get more like into it and how similar we are. And I know maybe they don't understand us very well as we do, but like traveling, getting more in touch with Spanish speakers and Italians, we feel like there's a lot of similarities in the languages. And also think this thing is specific about the intonation of voice. Like I said before, how important this is as well. Like for example, I'm here in Thailand, and then last week I was just going to a market strip, and the way the Thai people were speaking English, they was like welcome, welcome. They make it a little longer because in their own language, that's the intonation that sounds more friendly. Uh, and also this thing with the intonation, like I said before, now you can learn language with the books, but if you don't listen, if you don't hear people speak, you don't talk to them, you don't get the flow, you don't get the intonation. So yeah, this is what I think I've been learning traveling.
And is there like a specific place or like a specific languages that you got to learn that gave you an entire perspective about how these languages work? Like maybe one place that particularly surprised you?
Um, that's a good question, actually. I mean, Italy was a good point, actually, because I spent like 12 days in. No, I spent like a week in Florence and 12 days in Venice. And then I remember going to the supermarket or talking to people from where I was staying. I was like, wow, I didn't know that I can understand a lot. I didn't even know. Even like watching the news, I was just watching news, like, wow, I didn't even know that I can understand a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a very, it's, oh, visa?
I'm gonna mention a very, very random fact. I remember I was in the Netherlands. I was in Amsterdam. I was like having lunch with a friend, and then he's looking at me. We're gonna have like a kitchen, whatever. He's looking at me. Do you want mice? And then I saw he pointing at the menu. It was like corn. And then mais, that's the same word as in Spanish. And I realized that in Dutch, mais is also it's corn as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I understood what he said because I know from Spanish. And I realized the word for corn in Dutch and in Spanish is the same one.
Is it not the same in Portuguese?
Now, milho, that's another word in Portuguese.
Because mice is also the Italian one.
And the German.
Okay. Mais in Portuguese, it's plus, mais. One plus one, mais
Yeah.
Ah,
True.
mice. Okay.
And then I was
mais.
thinking about the English plural form of mouse. I thought, oh God, if there are mice in the restaurant,
Yeah, it's like
please
it's like
leave.
the wrong country.
Completely mixed up this word.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't know there were so many languages that use as mice.
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting. So, one time
Yeah.
we're gonna skip the
Yeah,
second
I
and
thought so
go to
too.
the last.
Okay. So, coming to the end of this whole podcast episode, we have one more question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to someone starting Portuguese, starting learning Portuguese today, what would it be?
First, Portuguese is not Spanish. This is two different languages.
Very important. Extremely important. Preach.
this is this is two different languages. Okay, you can't. People are so confident. Like, oh, I speak Spanish. I understand. I'm going to Brazil. I'm going to do great. No, people are not going to understand you. People are not going to understand you. It's similar, but it's not the same language. Second, before taking any class, I always recommend people go play some music, watch some video, get familiar with the intonation, with the flow, because it helps a lot. And some students they have a very good pronunciation, but they don't get like the flow. And then you can just fix it just watching some videos before. It makes your class a way more you can take way more prevalent, you can take more it makes the class helpful. It's better if you just prepare yourself a little bit before. Third, like I said before, try different methods, try different ones. You see which one works for you. There's no a very good and wonderful method that works for everybody. So try different ones. And fourth, have fun. Have fun. I always like to compare it that learning a language is like going to the gym. If you start going to the gym today, you're not gonna have, not gonna be fit in like in a month or in 2 weeks. You're gonna see some results in a couple of months. So learning a language is the same. If you start today, you're not gonna be super fluent like in 2, 3, 4 months. So, but by the time you're gonna improve it. So have fun and enjoy the journey.
Sorry, but the background music when you said have fun had such good timing. It was the end of like a sitcom episode.
Yes.
And I think in this way, we can actually come to the ending of this episode. Thank you so much, Guilherme, for being with us today and talking about your wonderful experience.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. Very nice talking to you guys. And
Yes.
hello, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand.
That's a very crazy combination coming from you. See, if people wanted to learn more about what you're doing and learn more about your wonderful mission of teaching people the wonders of Brazilian culture, where could they find you best?
You could just go straight to my website, BrazilianPortugui.com, or you could just find me in all the social medias, Brazilian Portuguese. Come learn Portuguese.
I can't wait to learn it. And I really suggest people watch his channel because I feel like the other is very, very nice and very, very also pretty to look at. I really like that style. So, but other than that, thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Connected by Language podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe, give a like, or follow us. And have you started learning Portuguese? I think you should guys should start to learn Portuguese. I would do it too. So if you have, please let us know in the comment below and let us know what other languages you want us to explore. We're very open to suggestions. So I've been your host, Michele, and I've been joined by my co-host.
Michelle.
And I guess we'll see you in the next episode. So thank you so much for watching and on to the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.